their courses in speed. All right, folks, just going to show you a cheat for how to rearrange equations. You're given the equations in the exam. However, you will have to know how to rearrange in order to get the high marks. It's almost guaranteed that they're going to give you an equation and you're going to have to rearrange the terms in order to make a different term the subject. So just so you know what I'm talking about, when I go through this video, that will be called a term. It's just a word I use for a number that's in an equation. If something is equal, if this entire equation is equal to one thing, then we call that the subject. And if I want to make something else the subject, then I call that rearranging. So just so you know what I mean when I say each of these words. So I'm going to turn this equation from C being the subject to B being the subject. And the way that we do that is we draw a line, and we draw an imaginary line in between the equals to sign. So I'll draw a line underneath my equation, and then there's an imaginary line there in where the equals to sign is. If I want to make B the subject of the equation, then I need to have B is equal to then everything else. I find the irritating term that means that B isn't by itself. So anything on this side of the imaginary line, the divide, that's the irritating stuff that I've got to move. Now I have to move A. I'm going to move A from this side of the imaginary line to this side of the imaginary line. When I do that, A is now in the wrong place. I cannot just write down that C times A is equal to B, because that's mathematically incorrect. Instead, when it goes over the imaginary line, the dotted line, it also has to cross the line that we drew at the start, meaning that we're left with A underneath C with a line there. This is now my divide. So B is equal to C divided by A. Now I can test to see if that's true. 2 multiplied by 3 is equal to 6. A is 2, B is 3, C is 6. B is 3, C is 6, A is 2. Is 3 equal to 6 divided by 2? Yes, it is. So this is the correct way of doing the equation. I'm going to do that again. Except this time I'm not going to do it for B. I'm going to do it for A. And I'm just going to draw my line, my imaginary dotted line. I want to find out what A is equal to without B being beside it. So I move B to the other side of the equals to, and then to the other side of the line. That's the sound that it makes. B is now underneath C. So my rearranged equation, A is equal to C divided by B. Now, C down here is being awkward. I want to find out what D is equal to. So I shall draw my line, my imaginary equals to, and I'm going to move C from this side of the equals to this side of the equals to. But it's crossed the imaginary line, imaginary divide line, so if it crosses the equals to, it must cross the line, and it will go up to the top. D is equal to AC. Now, anything written beside each other in algebra, you can say that they're multiplied together. So my rearranged equation is D is equal to A times C. If I want to find out what C is equal to by itself, sorry, I just need this to move. It's not moving for me. Okay, come on now. If I want to move something from, if I wanted to find out what C is equal to, then all I have to do is swap my numbers. So again, I can if I want to, I can draw my line, I can do my imaginary line, but it's easier to make the subject out of the denominator in a fraction. It's easier to make the subject out of the number that's underneath the other number on the other side, because if I want to rearrange this equation, all I have to do is swap everything down here with everything that's up there. You can do that, and it's still perfectly mathematically fine. So I've swapped C up to the top. A will swap to the bottom, meaning C is equal to D over A. So number one, if it crosses the equals to, then it goes to the other side of the line. And number two, if you've got something on the top, you can swap it with the bottom, and it will still be mathematically correct. Let's find out what B is equal to. I want to move C, draw my line. C crosses the equals to, and then it crosses the line, goes to the top of the line. I'm left with C times A is equal to B. I'm going to do a few here all at the same time, just so that we can see what they look like. I want to make B the subject, so I need to move C. Draw my line. C crosses the equals to, and then it crosses the line. Crosses the line just means go to the top. So B is equal to D that was already there, multiplied by C over E. Do the same thing for B, or I could do the same thing for C, except that's going to be 2 steps. So if I want to find out what C is equal to, first off, I have to swap C with D, giving me B over D is equal to C over E. And now I need to make E get out of the way, because E's being the awkward one. Draw my line. E crosses the equals to, and then it crosses the line. E times B over D is equal to C. So sometimes you have to do 2 rules at the same time. Remember, there's only really 2 rules that we have to know. That if it crosses the equals to, then it crosses the line. And if you have something as a denominator at the bottom of the equation that you want to swap, that you want to make the subject, just swap it with whatever's on the other side. B times C over D equals 2 times A. Right, we'll do a simple one first. I want to find out what D is equal to. All I do is swap D with everything that's on the other side. So that leaves me with D is equal to, actually I'll do it this way, B times C over 2 times A is equal to D. Because I've swapped everything up here, everything down there. I'm also going to find out what B is equal to. So I'm going to draw my line. I'm going to keep B happy. B's fine where it is. I don't need to do anything with that, but I need to move D. D moves to the other side of the equals to, so it has to move to the other side of the line. That gives me B times C is equal to 2 times A times D. If I want to find out what C is equal to, then I need to move B. B goes to the other side of the equals to, so it goes to the other side of the line. Move that from there. I can do it down here as well if I want to. There's my imaginary line. I'm going to move B, other side of the equals to, other side of the line. C is equal to 2 times A times D divided by B. Other side of the equals to, other side of the line. If you want to swap something, you just have to swap it with everything that's there. C times D equals E over F. I'll do what F is first, because that's the easiest one. I swap everything up here with everything down there. And I want F to be by itself because I want to make F the subject. So F is equal to E over C times D. You can swap things as long as you swap everything. If I want to make E the subject, then I draw my line. E is good where it is. It's at the top of the line. I want to move F. Goes to the other side of the equals to, goes to the other side of the line. So I'm left with E is equal to F times C times D. C times D equals E times G. If I want to find out what G is equal to, I need to move the awkward one. So E is going to go to the other side of the equals to sign, that imaginary line that we have. And it's going to go to the other side of the line. And the line is the one that we draw. Giving me C times D, because that's happy where it is, over E is equal to G. If I want to find out what C is equal to, I need to move D, because C is great where it is. C is already at the top, happy with where you are. You're awkward, I want you to move. Crosses the equals to, goes to the other side of the line. C is equal to D over E times G. That's incorrect. Sorry, I got distracted by, doesn't matter what I got distracted by. I got distracted by something. D goes to the bottom of the line. E times G over D is equal to C. B times D equals A times K. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to do this. K times B times D is equal to A. Is that right? Well, I'm going to put some numbers in. I'm going to do 3 times 4 is equal to 6 times 2. So B is 3, 4 is D, 6 is A, K is 2. 3 times 4 is 12, 6 times 2 is 12, so that is equal to. I'm going to test and see if this rearrangement that I did is correct. So K is 2, times B, which is 3, times D, which is 4, is equal to 6. Now 2 times 3 is 6, times 4, That's not equal to 6. 6 times 4 is 24. 24 does not equal 6. So this rearrangement was wrong. What was the mistake that I made? I moved k to the other side, and I forgot to move it below the line. So my correctly rearranged equation is a is equal to b times d divided by k. Let's see if that worked. K was 2, b was 3, d was 4, is equal to 6. 3 times 4 is 12, divided by 2 is equal to 6, so this rearrangement is correct. If it goes to the other side of the equals to, it goes to the other side of the line. Oh, nice simple one. I'm going to make C the subject. All I do is swap everything down here with everything that's up here. So C is equal to A times B over E times T. If I want to find out what A is equal to, I've got to use my two rules. I've got to use my rule twice even, pardon me. So I'm going to move C first off. C goes to the other side of the equals to, so then it goes to the other side of the line. So that gives me E times T times C. And I want to find out what A is equal to. So I need to move B, who's being awkward. Goes to the other side of the equals to, goes to the other side of the line. Divided by B. Here it's written a little bit awkwardly. A divided by B can be written like this, is equal to C. And I want to find out what B is. I'll just do my swapsies. B is equal to A divided by C. I want to find out what A is equal to by itself. Then I move B from underneath the line, other side of the equals to on top of the line. A is equal to C times B. A times B times C equals D times E times 2. I would like to find out what E is equal to. Now, E is in the middle, but that doesn't mean that that doesn't mean anything. The rules still apply. I want to make E the subject, so I need to move D, and I need to move a 2. So D goes to the other side of the equals to, then to the other side of the line, and 2 goes to the other side of the equals to, and then the other side of the line. Meaning I will have all of that divided by D times 2. So E is equal to A times B times C over D times 2. Oh, I've got a wrong thing there. I'm going to turn that into a D, okay? So we can't have times A times A. Or you can, I suppose, but it just makes it more complicated. Righty, I want to find out what B is equal to. So I take my half, the other side of the equals to, and then to the other side of the line, so below the line. And I take my D to the other side of the equals to, and then to the other side of the line, which gives me A over a half times D is equal to B. X is equal to Y over B, the easy one. Swap everything at the bottom with everything at the top if you want to find B. B is equal to Y over X. If I want to find out what Y is equal to, draw my line. I need to move B. B is the awkward one. Y is equal to, take my B, move it to the other side of the equals to, then it goes to the other side of the line. B times X. You can also write this as B times X equal to Y. It doesn't really matter. Same thing. 6 equals 2 times 3. It's the same thing as 3 times 2 is equal to 6. Okay, squares are a little bit difficult. The opposite of a square is a square root. If I want to find out what D is equal to by itself, then I need to move C. C goes to the other side of the equals to, and then to the other side of the line. A times B over C is equal to D squared. And now if I want to move a squared to the other side of the line, it has to become a square root. So I can get rid of that squared as long as I put a square root on the other side. Two times A times V squared is equal to B times D. I am going to find V. So I'm going to move 2 times A. 2 times A goes to the other side of the equals to, then 4 to the other side of our line. B squared is equal to B times D over 2 times A. But we still have this awkward squared. So to get rid of that, we have to square root everything on the other side. B times D over 2 times A. A over B equals C over D. If I want to find out what C is equal to, that's easy. I just move D from one side of the equals to the other side, so it has to go to the other side of the line. D times A over B is equal to D. If I want to find what A is equal to, get a different color. What A is equal to, let me get rid of all the colors. If I want to find out what A is equal to, then I have to move B. B goes to the other side of the equals to, so to the other side of the line. A is equal to C times B over D. If I want to find out what B or D is equal to, that's a little bit more complicated because I've got to do two rows in a row. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to swap D with A. They're going to change places. So that gives me D over B is equal to C over A. Now I want to find out what D is equal to. So it's in a good place right here because it's on top of the line. But I need to get rid of this B. So I take the B, move it to the other side of the equals to, then to the other side of the line, giving me D is equal to C times B over A. Delta A equals B slash D. Now delta A, that's all together. Delta sticks with A, so they're considered one packet. So if I want to find out what D is equal to, I can rewrite this with a nice straight line that we know. If I want to find out what D is equal to, then I swap it. Swap that with that. D is equal to B over delta A. If I want to find out what B is equal to, not this, delta A is equal to B over D. If I want to find out what B is equal to, then I need to move the D to the other side of the equals to, and then to the other side of the line, meaning B is equal to D times delta A. And remember that it doesn't matter if you've got letters written like this. That's 2 times C is equal to A times B times D. So if I want to find what D is equal to, I'm going to move A to the other side of the equals to, and then to the other side of the line. 2 times C over A is equal to B times D. I still need to move this B, so I move from B from this side of the equals to that side of the equals to, and then to the other side of the line. 2 times C over A times B is equal to D. The last one, x over y is equal to 2. I want to find out what x is. I move y from this side of the equals to that side of the equal to, and then above the line. X is equal to 2 times y. And if I want to find out what y is equal to, I swap it. Swap y with 2, giving me x over 2 is equal to y. And that's it. Do this 100 times and you'll get it. Wow, that's a fat smiley face. Thank you all.